Welcome to the KeeKee's Big Adventures Family Travel Podcast, here to help inspire and plan your family's next big adventure. KeeKee's Big Adventures all started with the award-winning picture book series starring KeeKee, the globe-trotting cat, exploring the world's diverse places, people, and cultures. I'm Shannon, the author and creator of KeeKee's Big Adventures. Moms and families love the books and asked for help planning their own adventures, so the podcast was created to help. Adventure awaits! I'm really looking forward to speaking to our next guest. She just had a wonderful vacation with her family, and we haven't had anyone on the podcast to talk about this place. We are going to take a trip to the Keys in Florida. Welcome to the podcast, Onaisa.
Hi, Shannon. It's so great to be here.
It's so good to see you and have you on. So tell the listeners a little about yourself.
So my name is Onaisa Landis. Me and my family live in North Carolina, right outside of Raleigh. We've been here for a couple of years. So we have got 3 little ones, a 6-year-old named Ava, a 4-year-old named Noah, and a 1.5-year-old named Micah. Life is a series of joyful and painful moments all at the same time. And family vacations are also the same.
I love it, but yeah, you go on them.
We go on them, indeed.
Very impressive. I've always loved that about Onaisa. She was a traveler before she had children, and that is not stopping now. So tell us about your latest family vacation. Where did you go?
So we went to the Keys. A little bit of backstory here. My husband is a great outdoorsman and wanted us as a family of 5 to go to Everglades National Park. So last fall began our journey of going to national parks as a family of 5. And so the first one we went to was the Smoky Mountains. And then this past spring break, we went to the 2 in Florida, Biscayne and Everglades. And our home base was Islamorada in the Keys.
Why your husband's interest in taking the family to national parks?
There is such a plethora of unique experiences to be had across the diversity of national parks that exist in this country. He grew up with both of his parents as teachers, and so his entire childhood was a series of adventures over the summer. And I think he very much wants to create the same for our children. He's been to the majority of the national parks himself and loved that and wants to create that for our family. And then also, I think having somewhat of an agenda to guide your family vacations is helpful because the world is a big place and there's so much to experience and so much to do. And this gives us a little bit of a map to figure out what to do next because we have this goal in mind to guide us.
Totally. I have to get you the National Parks Kids Travel Activity Guide we just did with AAA.
Oh, we would love that.
We'll really appreciate that. You can download it, and listeners, you can download it as well. So you have 3 down and 420 to go.
Exactly. We're getting really close.
Good news, though, you started with the most popular one. The Smoky Mountains is the most popular national park. We live close to the Everglades and Biscayne. Haven't been to either, but I've looked at them. They look amazing and look like just amazing places for the kids. And I love Islamorada. It's such a cute spot. We went a couple years ago. So what did you do? Where did you stay?
So let's see. I'd say our hardest part of our trip was our travel day 1, which made us very anxious about the 6 days to follow because we said, oh no, what did we just sign up for? Last year, we'd done an all-inclusive in Mexico. And we were like, at this stage, at this season in our life, it's probably the right thing to be immersing ourselves in all-inclusives where everything's kind of taken care of for you. Somehow we forgot that decision and instead said, let's embrace adventure and go from one place to another with hours in the car and kids in tow and hiking and airplanes and boats and trains and driving all involved. So that's what the spring break looked like. Travel day 1 was a tough, long one. My son had an ear infection and the entire airplane got to experience the joys of that for a solid hour and a half. We stayed at a resort that I believe it's called Lime Tree, and it's very family friendly. It was right on the water. You could rent paddle boards and bikes, and there's a pool. It was perfect if a kid needed to be inside napping. Our balcony was on top of the water. A kid could be in the pool while one parent was hanging back for the napping child. So it was a really great setup for what we needed. We spent a couple of days just hanging out at the beach and going to the pool. As I've come to learn, if there's a pool, the children will be happy. And it does not matter what you do on a vacation. All they will remember is that there was a pool. So
100 million%. That's what
yes.
they all want.
Children, you will go to every national park. We don't really care. Will there be a pool there? We don't even care if it's indoor. We just want there to be a pool. So Holiday Inn in Raleigh, North Carolina, the same as going to Alaska. We flew into Fort Lauderdale. We rented a very large automobile, very convenient in what we needed, but also the largest car we've ever driven, and made our trek down. It was nice. Islamorada was good because we could go to Marathon, not too bad getting back up to Everglades and Biscayne. So being right in the middle of the Keys was a convenient location. Obviously, so many restaurants and great places to dine and just explore right in Islamorada as well. And there were a lot of little local parks to go to as well. So for the days that we weren't going to Biscayne and the Everglades, we just hit up smaller parks for a couple of hours, and they all had beach and playgrounds and the things that the kids were looking for. Went to the grocery store one day and purchased a lot of Uncrustables, which we had never purchased before. But after a couple of days of wasted lunch experiences, we said, hey, it feels like we could make this easier and have the kids enjoy the thing that we were purchasing. And so there were a lot of Uncrustables consumed over the course of that week. Dining out at this stage in our lives is challenging. And so while we do that, small wins like Uncrustables for lunches help also make car drives a little bit more enjoyable because they're entertained and eating while we're driving.
So did you do a day trip to each park?
Yeah, we did a day trip to each park. We also went to essentially the SeaWorld of the Keys. There was like a dolphin show, exactly like SeaWorld, but just a smaller version of that, which the kids also really enjoyed. It was a little bit north of Islamorada, closer towards the mainland. And so that was great as well.
So what did you guys do on your trip to the Everglades?
On the trip to the Everglades, we went on 2 small hikes. One, and I mean the hikes, it's all on swampy water, at least the pieces that we saw. So hikes are very different than hiking in mountains of Shenandoah. So there, the kids were just fascinated by us looking over into the swamps and seeing alligator after alligator. And the wildlife there was just amazing. So interesting for the children. My husband had our youngest, Micah, who's a year and a half, on his shoulders the entire time. And I was just terrified that as he's looking over, he's just going to drop him into this alligator infested water. And, you hear so many stories. And luckily, we all came back with all of our limbs attached and no falls into any bodies of water that were not intended to be swam in. Reptiles, turtles, really cool birds. It was a good time of year. It was April, so it was warm, actually a little bit warmer than we'd expected. The low was in the 70s, the high was high 80s, and perfectly sunny every day. I can imagine that in the middle of the summer or even anytime after April, it'll probably get a little too hot. So it was a good time of year to go.
Then it was a day trip to Key Biscayne. 80 or 90% of the national park is underwater.
Yeah, it's all water. So there's no hiking there. Our trip there was going on a boat ride. It was an hour and a half to an island, and we got to explore around the island for a little bit. And the waters there were just so beautiful and pristine and clear. There was a lighthouse, and my middle child has always wanted to climb a lighthouse. And forever ago, we'd gone to a place and you were not allowed to enter the lighthouse. And ever since then, he was, I think, 2 at the time, but somehow he vividly remembers. So he was able to do that, which was his highlight. The boat ride itself was pretty cool, given that it was a couple of days after our terrible airplane experience. Our youngest child was still traumatized by the sound of engines. So he did not really enjoy the boat ride because I think he was just scared the whole time and held on to my husband as tight as he possibly could. But the rest of us greatly enjoyed it. And so, yeah, we were just on the boat the whole time and got to explore one island. We were told we might potentially see dolphins. Unfortunately, we didn't, but I hear they are a common sighting out there. I know you've seen a lot of dolphins during your time in Florida, Shannon.
Yes, we do see them a lot, which is so nice. It's like my favorite thing. It makes me so happy. Well, and then the waters down there are just so clear. When we were in Islamorada, couple years ago. We took a boat out. There's a lighthouse that's like in the middle of the water. I mean, you can't climb it, so your son might not really enjoy that. But just the water out there is just so clear and beautiful. It's amazing.
It really is. And the drive too, as you're driving, and especially as you get farther and farther away from mainland, farther into the Keys, you're just driving down up and down these bridges, and all you see in front of you is just water everywhere. There's like 360 view of water, and it's just so glorious. And we kept being like, kids, look outside the window. And it was so reminiscent of my childhood when my parents would be taking us somewhere and they'd be like, why aren't you looking outside the window? And we were like, we don't care. And we're like, but it's so beautiful. And of course, we all turned into our parents. So that's exactly what we were doing as well.
Of course. So it sounds like your son's favorite part was the lighthouse. What was Ava's favorite part?
Ava's favorite part, I'd say the pool. She recently has become a very avid swimmer. And so she loved being able to show off her swimming skills, and actually the pool and the ocean itself as well. Did a lot of swimming and hung out with a bunch of older kids and was very proud of how she was able to hang because of how well she can swim. And yeah, I think those were her two favorite parts.
What were your favorite parts?
My favorite part, actually, and I think this was one of Ava's as well, we got just the most beautiful sunsets from our balcony, from our deck. Typically, the kids aren't outside enjoying the sunset. We were like trying to usher them through bath time and get them into bed as quickly as possible. But we were able to, most of the nights, sit on the deck and watch the sunset. And it was beautiful. And the kids were just in awe of the colors of the sky and watching the sun go down. And we would finish watching the sunset, and then Ava would have us all sit on the couch in the deck and talk about what pieces of the sunset were the most memorable, enjoyable for each of us. It was really precious.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, well, it sounds like a very nature-filled vacation for the family.
It was very nature-filled indeed. I believe there are 62 or 65. So the next 60-some family vacations we will go on will be centered around national parks, all of which will likely be very outdoorsy. So the next one up for us is going to Acadia this summer and going to Maine.
Oh, you are? You're going to Acadia. Yeah. Very cool. When are you going there?
July 4th. So we'll be gone for 2 weeks through the 4th.
Oh, that's fantastic. You'll have to tell us about your trip there too.
Yes, I'll come back and share stories and any tips that I might have picked up along the way. It'll be similar. We'll be going to 3 different places. So Acadia is kind of the destination, but we'll be stopping in one town on the way to Acadia and another town on the way back from Acadia because we were flying in and out of Boston.
Any tips from this last adventure?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, maximize convenience whenever possible, which I know and always forget. We rented a car from a more budget conscious car rental place, and my husband stood in line for 45 minutes, and like it looked like there was a solid 2 hours to go. And we were like, we can't make it. So in that moment, he just switched and got another car through another car rental place. And we just walked up there and picked up the other car. We know that this is what would have happened, but we chose to be more budget conscious. And in the moment, we're like, no, this was the stupidest decision. Convenience really matters. The kids are losing their minds. Obviously, that's not always possible, but when it is, remember the pain that you're going to experience and whether or not the pain is worth the dollar savings. Most of the time it's not, but not always. Uncrustables. Food on the go is the way to go. Uncrustables were a lifesaver. I'm not getting paid by Uncrustables to be their spokesperson here, but they really were great. They saved us so much time. The kids really enjoyed eating them. We didn't have to fight about what's being consumed. So highly recommend just whatever packaged food that could make your life easier as you're moving around. And I'd say the third is to not force the kids to be on your timeline. We wanted to do all 3 of these things. Go to that Island of Adventure, SeaWorld place, go to Biscayne, go to Everglades. We actually didn't commit to doing any of them till the night before every time, where my husband and I would talk about it and say, hey, how was the day? Do we think the kids are ready for this? Because we could have done all of those things and they could have been really miserable because the kids could have been exhausted and just worn out. And so we didn't want to go in and be overcommitted and be miserable. Actually for a while. We were like, maybe we'll just skip Everglades because it might be too much. And we ended up doing the Everglades on our drive back to Fort Lauderdale. So it was on our travel day out. And so rather than spending an entire day driving up there and then driving back, it kind of just made sense to do it on our way out. So we didn't force them into a schedule that was too busy and probably too mature for where they are in their lives right now. Eventually, we would like to have vacations where it's just go, 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 and we get to do a whole lot of different things constantly. But at this stage, being able to see a little bit, have the kids play in the water a lot bit, maybe able to have cocktails at sunset, that's kind of seems like a pretty solid vacation.
Absolutely. It sounds like it. Really, really good tips. And I think a good option for enjoying the Keys. And I just love it because it's in the US, yet you feel like you're in the Caribbean or the Bahamas. Once you're down there, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it felt so far away from regular life.
So we know what your next trip is. Why do you think it's important to travel with your kids?
There's so much to do and see in the world, and not everyone has the luxury of being able to expose their kids to all that there is. And I doubt that we'll have the luxury of being able to expose them to all that there is. But what I do really want to instill in my children is curiosity and a hunger and a desire to learn and explore and be adventurous. And adventurous can be looking at worms in our backyard, and adventurous could be going on a hike a mile from our house, or it could be going to an exotic place. Traveling allows our children to see so much more than what they're able to have exposure to on a daily basis. It also really forces us to be wholly together as a family. And we, of course, have local adventures, but there's always that like, oh, I got to go home and make sure I remember to do this, and I have to make sure I remember to do this. But when you're traveling, you don't do anything other than just be together. And I feel like the goodness that comes from that doesn't just end when the vacation ends, but that feeling, that euphoria continues for kind of weeks after. And I felt like the tenor of the relationship with me and my husband, of our entire family, that changed not just for that week, but for the months following that week. I really appreciate that we have the ability to do that. When you talk to, especially my middle child, Noah, and ask him, we went to Chick-fil-A, and as part of the kids' meal, got these family questions as part of like dinner table conversation. And so we go through these questions on a fairly regular basis. And one of them is, what's your favorite family tradition? And Noah will always tell you family vacations are his favorite family tradition. So I think it just brings out the best of all of us, because everyone is just really immersed in being together, wanting to experience something new together.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And Noah is spot on. What a great family tradition family vacation is.
It is indeed. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun to be here.
Yay! Thank you, Onaisa.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on the KeeKee's Big Adventures Family Travel Podcast. Visit the episode webpage for all the details from today and lots more travel planning resources. We look forward to traveling with you on the next episode. Adventure awaits!